We are now listening into a press conference by Nashville's Metropolitan Police Department. Take a listen.
From the second level, they immediately went to the gunfire. When the officers got to the second level, they saw a shooter, a female, who was firing. The officers engaged her. She was fatally shot by responding police officers. There was a 5-member team who was on the second floor at that time. 2 individuals from that 5-member team opened fire on the shooter. We know at this point that this shooter is a female. She appears to be in her teens, although her identification has not been confirmed at this juncture. We know that she was armed with at least 2 assault-type rifles and a handgun. We are efforting now to identify her. She entered the school through a side entrance and traversed her way from the first floor to the second floor, firing multiple shots. We now know that there are 3 students who were fatally wounded, as well as 3 adults inside the school. We are working to identify those victims, including the shooter. A total of 7 persons were killed as a result of this morning's incident at the school. By 10:27, the shooter was deceased. The officers had engaged the shooter by 10:27, and she was deceased. Again, I said the first call came in at 10:13 this morning. I'll take just a couple of questions before we go back.
Clear. So the 7 dead, and then nature of injuries. How many injured? Do you know? That maybe are being treated still, or injuries. I know the first responders weren't. But
an officer had a wound from cut glass. That is the only other injury that I'm aware of.
Do we know if the injuries to the students, are they critical or do we know the condition?
The 3 students are deceased. The 3 students who were shot are deceased. 3 staff members who were shot are deceased. That's a total of 6 victims, and then you have the shooter who was engaged by 2 of our police officers, part of a 5-member team, and she is deceased, for a total of 7 individuals. There are no other gunshot victims, non-lethal, that I'm aware of at present.
Do you know how many people were shot? Do you know how many people were shot before the police engaged the shooter?
No.
Do you know if they shot anyone after they engaged the shooter? Do you know if the shooter was able to shoot anyone else?
Does the shooter have any connection to the school that we know of?
We do not know who she is at this juncture. We're trying to identify her. She does appear to be in her teens. Again, with 2 assault-type rifles and at least 1 pistol.
Do we know if there's a lines or previous recent incidents that was back up to the school or the church?
No, I'm not.
Was there an SRO or an SSO working at the school?
No, this is a church that operates a private school. There was no Metro Police personnel assigned to that building at any time.
Don, do you know if either of the 2 adults that were shot maybe confronted the gun?
You said 2?
Yeah, the adults that were
No,
shot.
there are a total of 3 adults.
3 adults.
3 adults who have been fatally wounded.
Okay, one of them being the shooter?
No.
No, okay, so 3 total. Do you
So
know
let me go over this again. You have a total of 6 victims, 3 students who are deceased, and 3 adult staff members from the school who are deceased. The shooter herself makes 7.
Do you know if one of the 3 adults maybe confronted her?
I do not.
The teachers?
There is video from the school that we are viewing now to try to learn exactly how all of this happened.
Can you say where the victims were located? Were they in the hallway, in a classroom?
I cannot at this juncture. As you know, 5 of the 6 were transported. So we will get that information later in the day.
Did police engage with the shooter inside a classroom or in the hallway? Do we know the location?
It is an upper level part of the school that's kind of a lobby type area. It was not in a classroom per se. All right, we'll be back shortly with more detail. We'll tweet out, give you a 15-minute or so notice before the next one, okay? Thanks.
All right, that press conference in Nashville wrapping up. We are learning more details, many details confirmed, many questions still remain. The Metropolitan Police Department there in Nashville saying that the shooter was a young woman, a female who was possibly in her teens. They also confirmed the death toll, 3 children, 3 adults, and the shooter for a total of 7. I want to bring back in our senior law enforcement analyst, Andrew McCabe. Andrew, I think certainly what stuck out most to me in that press conference was that the shooter was a woman who was possibly in her teens. What do you make of that?
It's exceedingly rare. Mass shootings are committed overwhelmingly by males. It's not. It's happened before that we've had females engaged in mass shootings, but as I said, Alex, it's unbelievably rare. And in this case, I would say made even more rare by the fact that she's potentially a teenager. But I guess we need more facts on that. I was also struck, Alex, by the timing here. So they received their first call, the police did at 10:13, and the shooter was dead by 10:27. So that means you had a very, very fast tactical response by law enforcement. They had a 5-person team that entered the building, went immediately to the sound of the gunfire to the second floor where the gun was being shot and engaged that shooter and eliminated her. We also know that they responded with what the fire department referred to as an RTF, a rescue task force. And what that tells us is that the police department and the fire department have done extensive training to understand how to respond to mass shootings together. In the case where you have these sorts of task forces, you have EMTs and folks associated with the fire department who actually have ballistic tactical vests. They go in with the tactical team for the purpose of triaging and attending to victims on scene before the entire structure has been cleared by police. It's the fastest, most tactically sound way to bring medical resources into those victims right away. So what you have here is about as highly evolved, well-trained response as you're going to get, any place in the country. And still, we have 7 victims. We have a shooter with 2 assault rifles and a handgun that is very heavily armed, with lots of rounds of ammunition, undoubtedly. And there is just, it's hard to imagine what seems on the surface from the few facts we have to be a better response, and yet it's still an absolute tragedy for this community.
Yeah, 6 victims, 3 adults, 3 children. And I think, Andrew, speaking to the speed of that response, according to Metropolitan Police and the fire department just there in that press conference, there were no other wounded. There was an officer who hurt their hand on some glass. But other than that, there were no wounded that we know of. 5 people were transported to the hospital, we were told. They were all deceased. But as you just touched on, Andrew, not only is it exceedingly rare that a young woman carries out a mass shooting, more than 90% of these shootings are carried out by men. But this young woman also had access to these extraordinarily strong firearms, 2 assault-type rifles and a handgun. So I imagine law enforcement will be looking into not only who she is, they don't have her identification yet, but certainly how she got a hold, if she is indeed a minor, of these guns.
That's absolutely right. And, the gun restrictions are different state by state, as we all know now. And whether or not she was able to legally possess those weapons, that's something for the investigators and particularly the ATF to figure out. But they're also going to be looking at where if she wasn't able to purchase these things or have them lawfully, how did she get them? Did she get them from her parents or family members or friends? And are any of those folks in a position to be held responsible, criminally responsible for what happened here today? I thought it was also, really notable, Alex, that she was interdicted on the 2nd floor of the school, and in what was described as a lobby area. So they got there fast enough to stop her before she got into a classroom. She was still in kind of an open space on the second floor, not actually in a classroom, which probably also saved many lives as we think back to the horrible tragedy at Uvalde and the situation where a shooter actually was able to kind of hide in a classroom with those victims.